So hello everybody, welcome to the Startup Grind. Our guest here today is Tamara, and she's one of the co-founders of SightRun, and we're going to hear more about her startup and about her. So welcome, Tamara.
Thank you, Austin.
So tell us a little bit about yourself.
What an easy question.
Yeah.
What to say? So
A little bit on your background, on your bio.
I studied hotel management in Switzerland, and it was a really good opportunity because after that I got a really amazing job in the US and gained a really great experience. After which I followed numerous jobs in the tourism industry, changing from hotels to travel agencies, and had an opportunity to run a travel agency on my own as well with 10 employees, and also to run and manage a hotel, a small boutique hotel with 10 employees as well. And all that was really amazing experience. But the whole time I knew I wanted to have my own company, and I never could decide what should it be, and I always kept postponing the idea and the thought of it.
So you always wanted to be an entrepreneur?
I always wanted to be an entrepreneur, even though the word entrepreneur in Croatia is not very well respected, so maybe I wasn't calling it that, but I knew I wanted to create something. I kept being annoyed to do, let's say, organization or something for somebody else. I wanted to do something for, maybe not even to say for myself, but to say this is a product I worked on, this is a product or a service I created, something to be proud of, kind of.
Okay. So what would you say were the first steps in achieving that goal in your journey, entrepreneurial journey?
That's definitely Founder Institute. Absolutely. I remember maybe 5-6 years ago, I read an article in one of our newspapers. It was about the first semester of Founder Institute, and I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what startup is. It was the first time I heard the word. But by reading the whole text, I was like, that's what I want. That's what I want to be. And even though I couldn't apply then and then try to enroll that year, I kept it in my mind as something that would be perfect for me to try out, like a challenge, because the way they presented it as something really, really challenging, really hard, but something worth pursuing if that's the career you want. So that's how the idea started of that. That's the first time I heard of the word startup. And then later, a few years later, I was living in Split, and Founder Institute was trying to start the program in Split, and I of course applied and was really looking forward to it, but at the end they decided not to do it in Split that year. And then suddenly they said, okay, we're going to do it in Zagreb in a few months later. And I was like, this is definitely the opportunity. This is the time for me to do it. And so I moved from Split to Zagreb. I quit my job in Split, found a new one in Zagreb, and moved to Zagreb to enroll in the program. Yes. It was definitely something I knew I wanted to do. So I was all in, and I remember the first time we were about 25, 30 of us. And so this program, Founder Institute, is, they call it Navy SEAL education for entrepreneurs. And it's a structured program that lasts about 3.5 months, which teaches you from beginning till, let's say, the end about everything you need to know to start your own company. But it's really hands-on, which means you are really working on your project while being in the course. And if you don't do your assignments, you get kicked out. So the first day we were like 30 in a room like this, and they said, okay, so this is your last chance to give up. This is going to be extremely hard work. Like, I don't know if this is not for everybody and so on. Like, you have to really think about it. And I was like, I just quit my job and came here. Like, there's nothing to think about. Like, I'm doing this for sure. But from the 25 of us who enrolled, somebody actually gave up after that lecture that Marietta was holding. Only 7 of us finished. So it was really tough. And actually, I was at one point where I wanted to give up as well. Yes, and I remember my mom actually sat with me that day, and I told her, look, this is too hard. Like, I'm giving up. I cannot do it. This is because we get assignments and you have to solve them. And this was one I couldn't solve. And I was like, okay, like I cannot solve this issue. This is not going to work. I give up. And she was like, okay, let's talk about it. And we talked about it, and we came to a solution. I was like, okay, we solved the problem, so I can continue. And I managed to graduate. So it was really a huge experience, something I'm very, very proud of. And actually, they made me open a company. So you cannot graduate until you actually physically open a company, which is so scary in Croatia.
Yes.
And so I ended up with a company after the program. I remember them saying, you know, this is just a lecture. Real life starts to kick in after that. The most important thing is to keep on working on your project after you graduate. But I was just like, I just need 2 weeks break because I need to get some sleep. I needed to like start to think, because during the program it's so intensive, you don't have any time to think. You are just in the motion. You're just producing. And after 2 weeks, of course, I stopped working on the project. Because I guess that's what happens to a lot of people who, I mean...
Yes, 50% of graduates, but I guess in Croatia, with disclaimer.
So yeah, that's my project then it's called Adventure Donkey, and this is the name of my company. It was, the idea was to do a marketplace for adventure activities, to put all the activities in one place, and then it's going to be so easy, right? You're just going to get customers, you're going to take commission, and it's going to be amazing. But then when I worked on the project with my best friend, and we already worked together before in a company, so we knew we can work together very well. But the problem is there's a huge difference when you work on a project in a company where you have a boss and somebody pays you, or when you work on a project during your free time, where nobody pays you, and somehow it's hard to do it. And now was the process, okay, we have to start to get suppliers and all of that, and it just didn't work. We just didn't do the work. And it was the first big lesson I had about team. Because always, when you are trying to do a project, everybody will tell you the most important thing is the team. And they told us that in the Founder Institute so many times. Everybody kept telling us it's the team. And I thought that I have a great team, my best friend and I, we're the perfect team, and we can make everything, right? It didn't happen. So it was my first real life lesson. You really have to have a good team, which is something that I have now, but let's come to that.
Fingers crossed. Right?
Fingers crossed. Well, many milestones achieved, many still to go, but I'll say more about it when I come to the explanation of how the team was created.
Oh, great.
Maybe let's do that. So I started working on my project, and I accepted it. It was hard to accept that I started the program, I finished the program, I opened the company, and I didn't do anything. It's hard to accept this. It was really hard for me, but it was obvious that this is not happening. So I moved on, and then something happened just by itself. Let's put it that way. The universe happened somehow.
What did the universe say?
Yeah, what the universe said. So in the meantime, I started running, and I had friends from running and so on. But when you're running, you don't speak with them about who works where and does what. I have many friends, and I have no idea in which industry they are, what they do, if they're high-level management or they're cleaners or whatever, because when we run, it really doesn't matter. So my boyfriend, he wanted to enroll to become a tourist guide, and he came to the first class, and he met Sandra there, who he already knew from the club, but he didn't know that she wants to also be a tourist guide. And they talked about like, oh, what are we gonna do? Like, what kind of tours do you want to do? And blah, blah, blah. And they were like, well, we should do something special. We should do something different. We should do something with running. Like, they have that everywhere. Like, why don't we do that? And they were like, yeah, let's do it. And so they came to me and said, like, we're gonna do this. Like, this is so cool. And I said, yeah, that's great. And I already have a travel agency because I had to do that because of the Founder Institute. So it was just standing there. And they're like, okay, so we have everything. Like, why don't we just start it? Now, usually things stop here. Usually people have good idea, like we could do something, and they don't do it. But in this case, this wasn't going to happen because Sandra really, really wanted to do this. And her boyfriend, Hrvoje, already had the idea of this before and already wrote a business plan a year ago about how he's going to do it. So it was an obvious thing to follow that. So Sandra created the website, even created the tours, and we started selling running tours in Croatia, in Zagreb, actually. And it was really good. Like people, it's not a huge demand because Zagreb is not a huge city, but people who started coming, they loved it. And they gave us excellent TripAdvisor reviews, and we really loved the experience. And we started to think, oh, there's so much more which we can do. Like we can do trips, 7-day programs, running team buildings, races. There are so many opportunities here to do for the running tourism market. So we pursued that for a few months. We were just kind of heating up with all the things that we can do because we were so excited, because we actually produced something. This was a huge step. Actually not we, Sandra and Ivan, but you know, we built it and it was there, and there were people who were paying us, they pay us up to 40 euros for a tour. Like I'm still shocked by that. And they love it, and for us maybe it seems like a lot of money, but for the Western Europeans and Americans it's nothing. Like it's a private tour for 40 euros and they love it. But then I was like, oh, I would still love to have a startup. Like, that would be so cool. But we're a travel agency. And then you happened, and you called me, and you told me that there is a competition, or how would you call it?
Don't really remember. But
I
don't think it was.
It's just a competition or something.
A competition from the Startup Factory.
From the Startup Factory. And he said, oh, there's this startup competition for tourism.
Facebook chat also. What?
I didn't know that. And I said, but I don't have a startup. We're a travel agency. He said, so become one. So we actually tweak it, yes. So we were thinking like, okay, so what should we do? And we were thinking about so many things, like, oh, we could do augmented reality or virtual reality, or we could do guides like this or like that. And there's so much technology, what we could do. And at the end we said, no, let's just transfer the idea, the basic idea which we have, let's just transfer it to the digital world. So audio tour with a guide, audio tour with a mobile app. And with the knowledge I had from the Founder Institute of how this presentation has to look like, what elements it has to have, we were really shining at that competition. It was very obvious from the beginning that we were one of the best teams there. Yeah, and we became one of the winners. And really cool thing, one of the jury members is an entrepreneur from Germany who is a passionate runner, who booked our tour right away for the next day, and who is now impatiently waiting for our app to be finished so that he can invite his buddies and to potentially invest in our business as well. So it's...
Does he get named or?
Oh yes, of course, Martin Renz.
Oh,
yes, he was here with the Startup Factory and through the German-Croatian
something. Yeah.
Entrepreneurship, commerce, something. Yes. So, but he was amazing support through the whole process. So, what does our app do?
Interesting.
Maybe.
Yeah, he's a Founder Institute mentor also.
Oh, is he? I didn't know that.
Surprise! Yes.
So that's new.
So when he came here, he came here to mentor for the Founder Institute, because he and one of his co-founders are also mentored in the Founder Institute. I think somewhere in Germany, Founder Institute Berlin or something.
I didn't know that. That's interesting. Yeah. So this Founder Institute keeps popping up everywhere. We're doing such a good promotion for
this. This is not commercial.
I really believe in that.
Oh, yeah.
So yes, so the idea of the app is to give audio tours which combine running with touristic sightseeing. It helps runners when they travel, when they're in a new city and they don't know where it's safe, where it's nice, and or they don't have time to combine it with sightseeing to get everything at once. And it's a product which we are creating for ourselves, but also for our fellow runners, because we know they need it. Because when we talk to them about it, they call me like, I'm going on a trip to Lisbon, like, is your tour already finished? And I'm like, no, not yet, wait a little bit more, like, but I don't know where I should run. So we definitely see the interest. We know it from our offline tours with the guide. We are very, very excited because the app is going to be launched next month. And we're the team. So we are a team of 4 co-founders. Sandra, the marketing expert, Hrvoje, who is in charge of the development, and he's the one who's actually doing the tour. I just talk about the tour, but he's actually the one making it. Ivan, who creates the content and the funny comments and the sightseeing stuff and all of that. And what do? I don't know. I just talk about it, and I do. Let's say I do sales, but I think, I mean, all of us, we do sales in a sense, because every conversation you do with somebody, and when you speak with passion about what you're doing, sure, you're promoting yourself. What I wanted to say before about the team, and even though I was trying to build this product with my best friend, and I know we're so amazing together, and this was going to work for sure, but it takes more than that, really. And so many times they tell you it's so important to have people who work together well. One example, Sandra was the first. Sandra didn't have a job, so she was really putting so many hours and so much work into that. And I felt ashamed. I felt like, this is not fair, like, she's doing so much, like, I need to push harder to work even more. And then when I started working harder, then Hrvoje was like, well, you two are working all the time, like, I need to work harder as well. And instead of being in the blaming situation where, like, oh, you're not working hard enough, or you're not, we're actually pulling each other to work harder and to make it.
That's exactly the recipe most accelerators, startup accelerators use for attracting startup teams. This is why one of the conditions in most accelerators in the world is you need to have 2 or more co-founders, because of that very reason, because they expect co-founders to push each other to move on.
Exactly, and that's really what's happening now. And a lot of times they ask me, like, I spoke with a few investors, and they're like, how are you? I mean, you're 4, that's a lot, and it's an even number. So how are you going to make a decision? And I say, you know, we've been together now for a year, and that's not a long time, but during that year, we've had to make some tough decisions. We've completely changed from being to a travel agency to do a startup, which is like 180 degrees. And we agreed on that. And a lot of times we disagree on a lot of things, but at the end, everybody gives arguments for their side, and we say, okay, either the more people, like a democracy, more people said what,
so you vote on it,
or somebody says it louder. No. But it's obvious who goes for which side. And sometimes when the topic is specific to a certain area, for example, if it's a marketing topic, then even if more of us are for something different, Sandra is the expert in that, so kind of what she says has to be that way, because, I mean, just the other day we were like, she's like, no, we're going to do it this way. I said, no, that's stupid, let's do it this way. But at the end, she's the marketing person, so whatever I say, it's just my opinion, and that's why we're divided into sectors depending on who has most experience and expertise in each area. And nobody knows the right answer. Like, who knows the right answer? The time will tell. Like,
oh, that's easy. Investors, they know everything.
Yeah, they know everything, right?
You should just do that.
Yeah, and I talked to this amazing investor from Finland, and he's crazy about the idea. He's going to come to Zagreb now at the end of June because he wants to test our app and so on. And he said, okay, but you're 4, so if you're 2, and plus we're 2 couples, which is also very interesting, and investors love that. So he's like, so how are you going to decide? I said, well, that's why we have mentors like you. You're going to advise us. So he liked that answer. But it's an interesting, really, symphony because two couples, two women, two men, we're all very different personalities, but it works. I mean, you make a decision, you move on, you see what happens, and then you tweak it or you don't. And I mean, the worst thing that can happen is that we're going to fail, but the experience we're going to get is that we're going to be amazing at our next one. So, not that it's going to fail, it's not. But.
Well, as someone who has a failed startup, yeah, that sounds good.
What is it, the statistics? 7 out of 10 fail?
9 out of 10.
9 out of 10.
Yeah. Okay, so Adventure Donkey failed, but you had all the experience and the company.
And the company.
You co-created SightRun. Actually, can't even say, did you create it? Did Sandra create it? It just created itself. It had all the conditions to came into being, right?
We can say that the developers created it, and Hrvoje was the one playing with the developers. We can, if we're gonna be technical, absolutely that way. But I think it's all of ours, baby. So, and it's a funny one because when we won the Startup Factory, and they're like, okay, so
there was a money prize, right?
Exactly, we received a grant of 20,000 euros, and Hrvoje was like, this is like the feeling when you get pregnant, like, oops. What now? So now, exactly 9 months later,
the app is ready.
The app is coming. Yes. So, but literally, it was like that because even though it was not our yes, it is kind of the same thing as what we were doing, but it wasn't our primary focus. And we didn't completely change to that until Martin Renz, the German entrepreneur. So we started working on it. But a few months later, he came back to Zagreb, and we had our first prototype. And we gave it to him, and he was the first person to run it. And he was like, "This is amazing. Like, this works better than I thought. Like, you need to decide if you're doing a family business, meaning a travel agency, or you're going to do a startup. You cannot do both. And investors cannot invest in you unless you are doing a startup. They don't want to invest, or investors like him will not invest in a travel agency. They will invest into a startup." And Sandra and I remember that meeting. It was like so many words were said between the lines, and Dražen was there as well. And later, Dražen was also translating some of the investor talk in between. And he said, "Girls, this is it. This is the opportunity you have. Now you have to really take it." And that's when we spoke with the guys, and we said, if we want to do this, we have to go full into this and drop the other side. And so we stopped doing races, and we stopped our 7-day running program around Croatia, and we stopped all of that. And I quit my job. Again, no, this time, 2 weeks ago, I quit my job, and I told my boss, because you can. And that's also one of the things they told us at Founder Institute.
Yeah.
They said you cannot really do something unless you're fully focused. So hopefully it's going to work now.
I'm going to disagree on them there, but all right.
Yeah. I tried. I really tried. I tried going first part-time.
Yeah.
But the jobs were too different. One was the one I was paid for was operational, and this one was at the moment more strategic. And every time we want to do something, it's like, okay, first we have to think of the whole concept and everything in advance for like 5 years, kind of, like all the angles before you write something little. So because every time you're creating from the beginning, and that's why I wanted to have that we have our own companies, because I wanted to work on strategies and see what's going to happen and not just work operationally. But it takes a lot of time. And that's why also team is really important, because it's absolutely impossible to do everything on your own. Not only because of time, but also because of your expertise. Because maybe I know a certain number of things, but Sandra knows, she does everything from the design, from marketing, so many different things. Like I did a presentation. I wrote the text for presentation, and I was like, please make it look nice. So when I sent it to her, it was nothing, and when she returned it back, it was like wow. And people keep saying this is really wow. The way it looks so professional and everything. And you cannot be an expert for everything. You need to work with other people to do it. I cannot create a tour. Like, I don't know these things. I don't have feeling for that stuff, but Ivan does. And I cannot talk to the programmers. They speak another language. I don't understand them. I think I told them one thing, but they heard a completely different. And that's what Hrvoje is doing. So it's important to have team members who complement each other, who respect each other. This is really important because we're going to argue for sure. But at the end, the respect has to stay to continue to work. So.
That makes sense. Are there any questions from the audience right now? Any questions about anything so far?
What's your favorite running route?
My favorite running route in Zagreb is definitely on the mountain Medvednica. To go up there, the nature is absolutely brilliant, and it's so close by the city, so it's really cool. But I wanted to say something, but I forgot.
Well, hopefully you remember. Oh, there's another question.
Just one more question. So how do you get different routes? Is it user input or do you
Okay. Very good question. Thank you for that. I always wanted to say that. So at the moment we're working on Zagreb and Croatia. We're creating oral tours by ourselves. Ivan is creating them. And we are testing to see how runners like them. We have an idea or an assumption how the concept should be, but we want to get their feedback to tweak it according to their wishes. And we're also testing our revenue model and all of this. But obviously we cannot create tours for the whole world. It's going to take too long. So we're going to build a platform through which runners from everywhere will be able to easily create their own audio tour and then share it through the mobile app with others. And then the idea is to have rating systems so that you can rate which tours are better and which are not. And then at one point, when we reach critical mass, we're going to start to charge for those tours which are rated better. And one part of the money will go to the creators of the tour, which is going to be a great motivation for them to create better tours. So that's the general idea. At the moment, we're going to launch the app next month. Actually, it's this month. No, we are end of May. So next month, we're going to test all these things that we're working on now, do it for a few more cities in Croatia, and then either with our revenue or with investment, we're going to start building the platform. Because until we have the platform, we don't have, our biggest value is going to be in the community. We join together. A community of passionate runners. But the idea is that the locals act as hosts for their fellow runners. Because when you run, it can be the idea is for tourists, but also it can be for other locals, especially in bigger cities. We always think of Zagreb, but we have to think larger. Some cities are really huge, and we as runners, we always run at the same place, more or less, unless there's a race. If there's a race, then we'll go to a different location. We're like, oh, this is so cool, I've never been here. That's how I got to discover many islands in Croatia, because there was a race there. Otherwise, I wouldn't go. But in Zagreb, I always run the 2-3 same places. But if there was a race, or if there was a route which told me, oh, why don't you try there, then I would go there. So it's also an opportunity to provide locals with a way to discover their city in a new way. There's many opportunities for engagement in different ways, to collect a certain number of routes, to collect a certain number of kilometers, to take photos, to connect with the other, because we as runners, we like to have our runner's diary. And we do it either through our watches, Garmin, Sunto, or something else, or through different running applications like Strava, Endomondo, Runtastic. There's many of them available. We want to connect with them as well. So there's many things which we want to do, but as they teach us at the beginning, you have to come out with your MVP, your minimum viable product, with your core function, which in this case is the tour with the navigation and the sightseeing, and let's see what the users say. And if they like it, then yes, we're going to have an opportunity to do so many cool things. I know Sandra, she can't wait to get the cool tweaks, like the photo sharing and some gamification elements to make it more fun, to get badges and so on, but we have to go one at a time. It's very exciting.
Well, that's great. So you told us your future plans also. So a few more prototyping cities, let's call them, in Croatia. Then do you have anywhere in Europe specifically you're looking for your next market or for expansion?
It's so hard to say from right now. We were thinking to do Austria and Germany, to do the German market, because we have some connections there. Now also in Finland we have connections. But then Sandra won at the Women Invest competition, and we got a great contact from LA, from an entrepreneur, Tracy Gray. She's a very influential woman there. And she said, I mean, girls, whenever you're ready, let me know and come over to LA and I'll meet you with some people who can help you out. So it's kind of like, okay, we are now, even though we have to keep the big picture all the time, and you're trying to think about the big picture and you're presenting the big picture, but you have to stay focused on your current assignment, which is to get the app, to get the users, to get their feedback. And then in the meantime, let's say in 3 months, think of a strategy. What would be the best strategy to continue? Because nobody knows the right answer, right? So anything can be. One of the things that we don't want to do, or we thought about it till now that we don't want to do, we don't want to create an app now for the tour for big cities. So let's say, okay, so Croatia is great, now let's do London, Paris, Berlin, and so on. Because the biggest problem usually about a startup, or I guess with all the companies, is not about creating the product, it's about getting users, acquiring users as cheaply as possible. And if we just build those tours, how we're going to inform tourists all over Europe that there are tours for these cities? Quite hard, because it's very expensive and we don't have that budget. So our idea is to go through the running community. And this is something we're going to test right now very soon with Croatia. We're going to contact the running schools, running bloggers, races, and so on, and to go speak with the runners themselves and try to entice them to create a tour, but then also inform them that there is a tour like this. And our idea at the moment is to go country by country in that sense. But ask me again in 2 months, the answer might be completely different, because what we will learn, the learning process is huge. What I know now, I didn't know a month ago, and I don't know what's going to happen.
I know. So that's one of the reasons why there's not many people in this quite big room, but it's just the way I like it. For example, I like to think that I see people who will succeed, and every once in a while I call upon the startup founder. I think, okay, everything's going well, I'm gonna invite you to be a guest, even though it's not really a big startup yet.
Exactly.
Can't really call it successful, hasn't even launched yet.
Exactly.
But I think you have everything what it takes, and I did the same thing with Mattia from Ogrivi. Okay, he already launched the product, but it was only 2 years later that he got an investment and it's growing. And now I can call you again in 2 years. Okay, so now you have your first 1 million users. Now what?
Exactly. I hope for that. I think Sandra does as well.
Well, of course, it's a lot of community engagement.
But yeah.
Okay, so I also like to ask each of my speakers what advice do they have for other startup founders. In your case, I can go a little bit more specific and say, so what advice, not even one, but even more if you want, do you have for other female startup founders, especially if they're starting from Croatia, but other places also?
I know it's always this hype about female or non-female, but I never saw it any differently. I don't know how to. I mean, I would say the same advice applies if you're a male or a female. You need, in my sense, you need a bit of courage, but you really need to be persistent. You need to be a bit stubborn, but I think that's maybe a more ugly word, but let's say persistent. And you really need to find a co-founder. It doesn't have to be four, like in our case, but don't think you can do it on your own. You need somebody to work with, to share the good things and to share the bad things. And these are the two things I would focus on, definitely. It's going to be very hard. I mean, it's going to be very hard for us, and I try to all the time remind myself of that this is a hard thing. It's a hard thing to build something new. It's hard. I always think of it this way. I'm now trying to sell an app which doesn't exist yet. After this, I can get a job anywhere selling a product which already exists. It's so much easier. So it's a challenge, but if you like a good challenge, go for it. Just get a good team member. Absolutely.
Well, cool. It's good advice.
Yeah.
Well, if there's any other questions from the audience in the meantime?
You have so much extremely positive attitude, and you're so enthusiastic, and you can open any door with that.
Thank you so much.
You'll succeed.
Thank you so much. But actually, there's a funny story to this. I get very excited about things, but then also, there's a time when you don't feel so excited, and then it's really good to have that person next to you who tells you it's okay, like everything is gonna be okay. So, yeah. But thank you.
And who's that in your case? Is it Sandra? Is it your boyfriend? Is it
No, I definitely have a boyfriend. Definitely Sandra and Hrvoje, they're definitely for that. Hrvoje likes that, he's the motivational speaker in the family, I would say. So, but yeah.
Okay, cool. So
thank you for inviting us, even though we're not so big and successful yet, but in 2 years. Huh?
Well, I believe you will be, yeah. And thank you everyone for coming here today. Hope you had fun.